Let's talk about consciousness. What is consciousness? Well, I have a little spinner thing here. If any of you have ever watched the movie Inception, he has a little spinner that he will flip, like a little top. And if it keeps going and doesn't stop, that means he knows he's still in a dream. If it stops, that means he knows it's reality. What does that have to do with consciousness? Well, consciousness has a couple of different parts. Consciousness is this idea of alertness. Like right now, I am sitting in an office. I am awake, alert, talking, moving. I'm conscious. I know what's going on. So alertness. It also has this idea of knowing who you are and where you are. I know my name. I know what town I'm in. I know what the date is. There's a lot of things that I can say. I know my surroundings. I know I'm in a room with yellow walls. I know I'm in a room with there's a bed back there. That's consciousness. I know what my surroundings are. Okay, those are a couple different things of consciousness. Now, with consciousness, a lot of discussion happens around two or three main topics. One is this idea of sleep, because sleep is another form of consciousness. Okay, we are not alert. We're not aware of our surroundings when we're asleep. So sleep is a form of is part of consciousness. Dreams. And then we have substances, drugs, because there are a number of drugs that can alter our state of consciousness. And then finally, we have things like meditation and hypnosis. So I want to take you all through a couple of those things. First of all, there's this thing called the circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm, circa DN. So around a day. It's a roughly 24-hour cycle. Typically, it's the way of referring to the sleep-wake cycle, circadian rhythm. Now, why do we care? Well, because that circadian rhythm can get messed up. Jet lag, for instance. If you go on a plane and you visit somewhere where the time is not the same, where there's a time difference, then you can experience what's called jet lag, because your body is thinking that it's a different place in its circadian rhythm than your environment is telling you. Sometimes people can have a little bit of disconnect with time changes in the spring and in the fall, because your body's telling you, if you spring ahead, for instance, your body's telling you it's 9 at night when the clock's telling you it's 10. Okay? So jet lag, time changes. Another thing is shift work. People working, sometimes they'll work graveyard shifts, sometimes they'll work evenings, sometimes they'll work days. Shift work is interesting because it can cause more of a problem if it's not consistent. If it's shift work where you're constantly changing shifts, it can cause more of an issue than if you have a consistent night shift. Okay, so that's shift work. So that's what a circadian rhythm is. Okay, that's how the sleep cycle works. But what about sleep itself? Why do we sleep, and how does that work? Well, there are a number of reasons why we sleep. First of all, there are physiological reasons. Sleep helps repair any damage that's done to our bodies. I did yard work yesterday, so my muscles are sore from doing yard work. A good night's sleep helped repair my sore muscles. Those of you who play sports, a good night's sleep helps repair those sore muscles. Sleep helps restore if you're sick. Sleep helps restore that and helps you get better. So there's restoration, repair in terms of physical function. There is also a protective function to sleep. We are safer if we are in our beds at home asleep at night than if we're out doing stuff. That was more apparent 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. But even now, You can say that. You can say people who have a routine of at night, they go to bed and go in their bedrooms, in their house, they're safer. So it has sleep provides a safety function. And you can look at evolution in terms of the safety function too. Those people way back when who slept at night, stayed in their house, didn't go out and do stuff, were more likely to survive and have kids who slept at night. Okay? So, protective function, repair function, restorative function. Sleep also can have some cognitive functions. Sleep can help consolidate memories. It can't help you learn new material. You can't just put headphones on and learn stuff by osmosis while you're sleeping. But if you've learned something before you sleep, sleep can help your body process it. Because we're going to find out in dreams, one theory of dreaming is that you're processing stuff that you've encountered during the day. Okay, so cognitive processing, memory, because sleep can help you physically, it can also help your brain physically, which can help your cognitive function. So those are the purposes of sleep. So how does sleep work? What's the cycle? How does it work? Well, there are two main divisions of sleep. There's REM and non-REM. REM stands for rapid eye movement, and it's the phase of sleep where we dream. And typically, we don't really move in REM except for our eyes. But our mind is very active, and it's the part where we're dreaming. That you can have a little bit of that right at the beginning, but then you go through a whole nother phase of non-REM until you hit it again. And what you'll find is as you go through the night, a greater percentage of your sleep is REM sleep. So there's REM, then there's non-REM. Non-REM can be divided into stage 1, stage 2, and then stage 3, 4. And it's divided that way because of the type of waves your brain is putting out. They've done sleep studies where they attach sensors to people's heads and looked at brain waves. And the type of waves that are produced can tell you what kind of sleep somebody's in. Stage 1 is very light sleep. It's kind of, am I asleep? Am I awake? Am I asleep? Am I awake? I'm very drowsy. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is kind of a medium level. I'm definitely sleeping, but it's not hardcore. Stage 3, 4 is deep non-REM sleep. And there's an argument over which is more important, the deep non-REM sleep or REM. They're both important. They're both something that the body really needs. So there's stage 3, 4 non-REM, and then there's REM. Those are the different stages of sleep, and our body cycles through these different phases. So that's the cycle, okay? Now, with sleep, we have different sleep issues and we have dreaming. What about dreaming? I mean, what's the deal with that? Are there dreams that people normally have? Do our dreams mean anything? Why do we dream? Well, I guess we can start with that. What's the purpose of dreaming? There are a few different theories as to why we dream. First of all, there's Freud. Freud believed in dream analysis, and he believed that dreams were a way of our mind to get out those unconscious wishes and desires. Remember psychoanalysis, where you're dealing with unconscious wishes and desires. Freud believed that dreams were a way for the mind to get those out, and that dreams have what's called latent and manifest content. They have content that's what the dream is actually about. If I'm dreaming that I'm taking a test and I keep turning page after page after page and I can't finish it, well, the manifest content is what's actually there. And I'm actually dreaming I'm taking a test and pages and pages and pages of content. Latent content is I'm worried that I'm never going to get, unconsciously, I have this big desire that I'm never going to be good enough, that I'm never going to get everything done that I need to get done. That's simplifying it a little bit. Of course, Freud tends to move everything towards aggression and sex. But the idea is there's what the dream is actually about, and then what the underlying meaning is, and looking at those unconscious wishes and desires. So, is there any truth to that? Well, I think in the sense of if you're anxious or worried about something, your dreams can be a way of your mind dealing with that anxiety or worry. That makes sense. If you have a big test coming up and you're worried about it, yeah, you might dream about taking a test. I think, and to that extent, yes, that it makes sense. Another purpose of dreaming is just processing the day's activities in terms of you've experienced stuff during the day, you experience stuff during your day-to-day life, and dreams are a way of your mind dealing with those day-to-day activities. It's reliving the day. That's why a lot of our dreams are about things that we encounter in real life. Not all of them. Some dreams can be pretty wacko. But a lot of dreams are about things that we encounter in real life. So we have Freud and that dreams signal unconscious wishes and desires. We have the dream as a reliving our daily experiences. And we have dreams as random neural firing. In other words, the other theory of dreaming is that it really is not supposed to have this big, great meaning. What it is just random firing in our brain, and our brain trying to make sense of that. So we have these neurons firing and our brain's trying to make sense of that firing. That's the third purpose of dreaming. So that's dreaming. Before we leave dreaming, I want to talk about lucid dreaming, which is if you've ever had a dream where you've realized it's a dream and woken yourself up, or you've done something to control your dream. That's lucid dreaming. Think again of the movie Inception and the spin thing. And this, I know this doesn't look exactly like the thing in the movie, but think of being able to control your dreams. Okay, now I'm going to get people to go watch that movie after this. Go ahead. The lucid dreams are when you are aware that you're dreaming and you're kind of controlling things. So that's dreaming. Ask any questions that you want. I mean, there's some other questions that people have put out there. Things like, and I suggest you look at any of the additional materials or ask in discussion. Things like, if you die in your dreams, do you die in real life? Why do people not die in their dreams? Can dreams be prophetic? So there's a lot of different questions out there. Okay? So, as I said, feel free and ask. So moving on, we have dreams. We also have what happens when there's problems with sleep. The first thing is sleep deprivation. When you don't get enough sleep, what happens? Well, first, what happens is you get tired and cranky. I'm sitting here going like this. Okay, that's the first effect of sleep deprivation. You're sitting there in a lecture, you're sitting there at work, and you start falling asleep. That's the mild, I'm slightly sleepy. If the sleep deprivation keeps going, it can cause physical and mental issues. It can cause irritability, which is a smaller issue. Irritability, crankiness. It can cause lack of concentration. So you're not able to concentrate as much. Your reaction time can be affected. So there's physical effects. In extreme forms, it can cause people to have accidents. Think about people who've fallen asleep at the wheel of a car. And people have been reported under extreme forms of sleep deprivation to have hallucinations. So there can be some extreme ramifications of sleep deprivation. So that's one issue. So what can cause that? What are some of sleep disorders that can cause sleep deprivation, can cause trouble with sleep in general? There's insomnia. Insomnia is having trouble falling asleep or having trouble staying asleep. So insomnia could be just sitting there in the bed for 2 or 3 hours and not being able to fall asleep. There isn't a specific amount of time, but it's just on a continual basis not being able to get to sleep. Or you can get to sleep, you're just waking up every 10, 15 minutes. It's just chronic. You wake up with anything and everything. That's insomnia. Now, there's things that you can do for it. You can create a bedtime routine that's more consistent. That can help. You can look at different things to eat or drink before bedtime, like cutting out caffeine. We're going to talk about drugs, like cutting out caffeine. There's a lot of different things that can be done to help. There's different drugs. There's melatonin that can help people fall asleep. Yes, if you've heard of melatonin, yes, it is a drug that can help you fall asleep. Okay? So, there's insomnia. Now, we have these things called the parasomnias. These are things like sleepwalking, sleep talking, night terrors, strange things that can happen with sleep. Night terrors are something that you typically see in young children, and it is scary to watch. It's this, they almost look like they're having a nightmare and they're screaming and they feel almost like a panic attack. But then they don't really remember much of it when they wake up. So it's a little different than a nightmare in that sense. It's something that people generally grow out of. It's more common in kids, but not necessarily. You don't always grow out of it. Then there's sleepwalking and sleep talking. When you're dreaming, you're supposed to not be able to move because dreams normally occur in REM sleep and rapid eye movement. Your eyes are the only things that move. The rest of your body stays still. Well, what happens is with sleep talking and sleepwalking, that doesn't work right. So when you're dreaming and whether your body, it's not the way it's supposed to be. So you're able to move while you're dreaming. You're able to move in your sleep when you shouldn't. And sometimes it's just moving your voice, and that's the sleep talking. And sometimes it's moving your whole body. What do you do with somebody who's sleepwalking? You try to gradually, you basically safety first and make sure they don't hurt themselves or others. And you gently take them and try to put them back in bed. I mean, that's the be all and end all. With somebody who talks in their sleep, you just, I don't know, record it and laugh about it. It just depends. And it depends on if it's something that causes them physical issues in terms of causing them to not have a good quality sleep. That's going to be the biggest issue. If it's something that is distressing to them, then it's something that you can get help for. So that's some of the parasomnias. The two other sleep disorders that are commonly talked about are sleep apnea and narcolepsy. Sleep apnea is when you stop breathing while you're sleeping. And it's most common with overweight, middle-aged, more men than women, but it's kind of that old, you're overweight and you're getting older and your breathing mechanisms aren't what they used to be. So people stop breathing while they sleep for a few seconds. The cure, so to speak, there is no cure, but the remedy for sleep apnea is what's called a CPAP machine. It's the mask that, and I'm guessing a lot of people know somebody who has one of these. It's a mask that people can wear to force air into their lungs while they sleep. The purpose being that you don't want to lose oxygen, especially you don't want to lose oxygen to your brain while you're sleeping. That's not a good thing. So that's what the CPAP machine does. So sleep apnea is you stop breathing while you sleep. Narcolepsy is when you fall asleep suddenly when you don't want to. It can be little things like microburst, 1 or 2 second, like it can just blink and you miss it. Or it can be you are sitting in class and all of a sudden you're like, okay, it can be stuff like that. So it can be minor to major. The issue with narcolepsy is, does it make you sleep deprived? Does it affect your ability to function? And are there safety issues? You don't want somebody falling asleep while they're driving a car. That's just not safe. So that's the issue with narcolepsy. Now, there are certain drugs that can be taken, different things that you can do to help it. There's no real like, oh my gosh, boom, that's a cure. But there's certain things that can help the symptoms. So that's narcolepsy. So we've talked about what sleep is. We've talked about the sleep cycle. We've talked about dreams. We've talked about sleep disorders. There are two other things that I want to talk about in terms of consciousness. One is the different kinds of drugs that can affect consciousness, and the other is meditation and hypnosis. So what kind of drugs do we have? First of all, let's talk about the issue of substance use versus substance use disorder in terms of when does the intake of a drug go from use to misuse or a disorder. Let me give you an example. I'm a coffee drinker. How do I know that my coffee drinking has gotten bad enough that I would be considered abusing caffeine? Well, there are a number of different ways, and you can translate this into other drugs too. One is withdrawal symptoms. If I stop having caffeine, if I don't have my cup of coffee in the morning, do I have physical symptoms? For me, the answer is yes. I get a headache if I don't have caffeine, which is not a good sign. That's a sign that it has crossed into a disorder. Somebody who smokes, if they get symptoms if they don't have a cigarette, if they get agitated, if they get withdrawal, an alcoholic will get what's called the DTs. So withdrawal symptoms. Do you get symptoms, mostly physical, sometimes psychological, if you stop using the drug? That's one indication that it has become a disorder. The next thing is tolerance. My caffeine. Does it take more and more caffeine to give me the alertness that I want? Do I go from diet soda to energy drinks? Do I go from 1 cup to 2 cups of coffee? Does a person who smokes go from 2 cigarettes a day to 5? Does a person who drinks go from 1 drink to 3 drinks in order to get the buzz they want? That's tolerance. Does it take more to give you the same effect? So there's withdrawal symptoms, there's tolerance, does it affect your daily life? Does my coffee drinking affect my ability to do my job? In that case, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. I'm not sitting there, I don't have to drink so much coffee that I have to drink it in front of every class. Then it might. If I had to have it every second of the day, it might affect my daily life. Cigarettes. Is it something that, or vaping, is it something that you can't go without? Is it something that you can't take a job that would require you to go a certain amount of time without it? Is it causing you, is your drinking causing you not to show up to class? That's the whole, is it affecting your daily life? So 3 big markers, I think, for disorder are withdrawal symptoms, increased tolerance, and it affects your ability to function in daily life. That being said, let's look at the different types of drugs. We have depressants. Alcohol, believe it or not, is a depressant because it inhibits you. It inhibits you in terms of it takes away your inhibitions. And that's why it's considered a depressant. Okay, and it depresses it slows down your reaction time. So it's considered a depressant because it doesn't allow you to be as alert and functioning as you would without it. So there's alcohol, there's barbiturates, which are basically downers. That's what they used to be called. It's drugs that slow you down, calm you. Okay, that's barbiturates. Then we have the opposite. Those are depressants. Then we have stimulants. Stimulants are drugs that pump you up. And we have amphetamines, which used to be called speed. Now there can be a lot of different versions of it. It's things that rev you up. Then caffeine is a big stimulant. Caffeine is one of the most common stimulants there is. Caffeine, cocaine, and nicotine are also both stimulants. Nicotine, that stuff you get from cigarettes or Juuls, is a stimulant. What's interesting is, and cocaine is a stimulant. What's interesting is stimulants don't necessarily work the same on everybody. If you have people that really have ADHD, for instance, sometimes stimulants, instead of revving them up, will help them focus. I have seen people self-medicate with stimulants because I can't focus, I need a Mountain Dew. Or drinking a cup of coffee will help them focus. It's not necessarily because it'll make them more alert, but it helps calm them down in a weird way. And that's the idea of psychostimulants, to help focus people. So there's that. There's also the idea of stimulants, the interactions with stimulants and different mental disorders. What you find is people with different mental illnesses tend to go to things like nicotine because it helps soothe them. It has a different effect. So stimulants can have a different effects on different people. Then we have two more. Opiates, which come from an opium plant. And opiates are painkillers. Heroin, morphine, codeine, oxy. Okay, think of painkillers when you think of opiates. The big thing about opiates is they are extremely addictive. Extremely addictive. And because of that, they're really hard to get off of. If anybody has known anybody that's addicted to heroin or addicted to oxy, it's rough. And it's because they're painkillers. And it's deadening the pain. People use them to deaden the pain. And you just it's that idea of also tolerance. These drugs are known for tolerance building up. You need more and more and more and more and more to get the effect. So withdrawal symptoms, tolerance, they're very addictive drugs. The last thing is drugs that are considered hallucinogens, drugs that affect your sense of reality. LSD is a big one. LSD was very popular back in the early 70s. Think of the hippie generation and going on a trip. That's LSD. The other drug that's considered a hallucinogen is marijuana, because it does have some hallucinogenic effects. Now, what's interesting is think about that. What kind of hallucinogenic effects does marijuana have? What can it make you think you're perceiving that's not really there? And with that, should it be legalized? What kind of other effects does it have? Does it have pain relieving effects? Should it be used for medical purposes? Should it be legalized? Is it more dangerous or less dangerous than cigarettes? I can tell you one interesting fact is some of the new surveys that have come out are almost putting the percentage of high school students that are smoking marijuana as greater than the percentage of high school students that are smoking cigarettes. Now, I say this, and now we have vaping. So it depends on whether you count vaping as part of that cigarettes nicotine group. So that's going to be an interesting question. Okay, so marijuana. Should it be legalized? Should it be legalized only for medical use? Should it be legalized totally? There are arguments for and against that. So we've talked about drugs, we've talked about dreaming, we've talked about sleep. The last thing is a couple of altered states of consciousness, which are meditation and hypnosis. Hypnosis, you think of concentrate on the thing, you are getting sleepy, okay? Or the spinning ball, you are getting sleepy. Not necessarily like that. But hypnosis is a heightened state of suggestibility. Some people can be more easily hypnotized than others. So what is hypnosis good for and what is it not good for? Hypnosis is good for things like pain relief, because it can help calm you down, it can help relax you, it can help with stress. So it can be good for pain relief and stress relief. And because it can reduce stress, it can have some effects on addictive disorders in terms of like overeating, smoking, things like that. It's possible. So those are the things that it can possibly have a positive effect for. Anything where reducing your stress and calming you down might be a help. What hypnosis is not good for, or hypnosis is a big red flag, is help with memory retrieval. If you look at movies, they talk about, oh, I'm going to hypnotize you so you can remember this event from your childhood. Memories recovered under hypnosis are no more accurate than memories recovered normally. In fact, I would be suspicious of a memory that is recovered only under hypnosis, because hypnosis is an altered state. It's a state where people have heightened suggestibility, which means any little thing the hypnotist said can affect that memory. And that's a big red flag. We're going to learn in the memory chapter, that people's memories can be fiddled with. And that's the scary thing. When you're under hypnosis, you're even more suggestible. So I wouldn't necessarily discount it if a memory was recovered under hypnosis, but I would be extremely suspicious and say, hey, let's look at this and figure out if we have any evidence. The last thing is meditation. Meditation has some of the same benefits as hypnosis. If you're looking for something that can help relieve stress, help relax you, then meditation might work. And it can help with anything where relaxation and stress relief is needed. Meditation is not a be-all and end-all. Again, it's not going to make you in this necessarily enlightened state where you're going to understand stuff a lot better, but it can help relax you. And in that sense, it can help. So that's meditation and hypnosis. I'm going to leave you with this. I have my spinner here. The question is, dream or reality? Are we dreaming? Or is this real? Think of the movie Inception. Who knows? Let's see. I'm going to see if I can do this here. Oh, it stopped. I guess we're not dreaming.